Hey guys, Muncheez here, and today we're going to talk about Akkan Gate 1. So we're going to go over some tips and some important things that you should be very wary about when you're doing this, and we'll go over it. Because once you spend all this gold and resources getting a 1580, you're going to want to do Akkan. So for your items, you're going to bring flame grenades for killing insects and panaceas to remove a debuff on you, and sacred charms. I always bring both of these because sacred charms do one of your teammates and panaceas remove the debuffs on you, just in case someone kind of like drops the ball. I use both of them. Uh, this is for the stagger mechanic, so when we get into it, I'll explain it. I'm gonna go over these one by one, and as I go through the mechanics in the fight, I'll break them down and I'll split the differences between hard and normal as always. And if you're playing an artist or a paladin, make sure you have cleanse available for the 128 HP stagger mechanic. So this lets your like DPS bring atropenes and like time stops or whatever if they need to play more safe or whatever. It lets them have different options for your whole entire team. So this is for like the more confident players. So if you play a support and you just tell your DPS to bring atropenes or whatever, they'll just be like, bet, say less. As long as they know they can rely on you to do the cleanse for the mechanic, you'll be fine. So it's kind of like a two-way street. You have to trust your DPS not to die using atropenes and stuff like that, while they kind of have to trust you to handle the cleanse. It's just important that you guys are very close together during the mechanic. But to be safe, you can always just bring flame grenades, panaceas, and sacred charms. If you do this, you'll be fine. And for DPS, if you're running a Purify rune, usually you put it on a move that runs bleed. This isn't a general thing, but for most classes, the move that you're running bleed on is the move that you're going to change out for Purify rune. So this boss has a debuff that stacks on you that reduces the amount of healing you get. So you want to get rid of it before you pot. You get kind of used to looking out for the debuffs and things like that over time. You'll get more comfortable with it. It took me about like a few weeks to get used to it just naturally, but it'll be pretty easy, so don't panic too much about that. And there will be an AoE that he does when you zone in. Dodge the AoE and then get inside. Most of his wide attack patterns in this fight, if you're behind him, generally you're safe. So if you can stay close to him, behind him, you're fine. Every once in a while, he'll do these annoying attack patterns where he'll jump up and you can't really hit him, and he just drops out this AoE on the ground. And it's usually followed up by a counter, so if you can land the counters in this fight, it makes the fight much easier. So the first 140 mech is going to be the orb. So this is where you get your color. So when you get this color here, make sure you keep in mind for the whole fight what color you are. So you can build gauge here. Just make sure you have a move to kill the orb when it comes out. So once the orb comes out, kill the orb and just keep in mind. So I got green this fight, so make sure you keep in mind what color you are. Now, immediately after you get your green or black orb, he's going to jump in the air and drop 2 spears on the ground. Stay away from these spears at the start. So generally, you don't want to stand next to any black orbs, and you don't want to stand on top of the spears because it'll petrify you and it does percent health damage. So you don't want to enter the next phase of the fight with 0 health. So there's no timing on this when he lands. It's entirely random. So just stay within maybe like a spacebar's range from the spear and you should be okay. If you're a support, just go ahead and awakening when he jumps into the air. Using it earlier is better than later, because if you do it too late, sometimes he lands immediately and you're not going to be able to get out of your animation to dodge the AoE. So earlier is better. And as you can see, the other party had it, and think of how much happier they are being at full health. So this helps a lot. Now throughout the fight, you're going to get these polymorph stacks as you are standing next to the player of the opposite color of you. So if you're standing next to a black orb player and you're green, you're going to get these polymorph stacks. And you'll see it frequently because you end up being clumped up a lot in this fight. So if you see the polymorph, as you can see, I just got one. As it's going, the higher the stacks are, the less the amount of healing you receive. So if you have a Purify rune that's available to your skills, it's best to just put it on one of your moves that you use pretty frequently. So for example, I put it on my counter because I use it to like re-up my adrenaline stacks. Some other classes, however, don't have the luxury of having it with like the move that they want, but generally like whatever skill has bleed on it, if you can't think of any other one to change out for Purify, usually the one that's running Bleed Rune is a safe bet. Now, the first mechanic for the Stagger, the 128 Stagger, this is usually what kills most groups and like just disbands them because people either they'll tend to hold skills for DPS. So until you get comfortable with this, I suggest holding on to some high Stagger skills before he hits 128. So the way this works in a nutshell is I call a stoplight mechanic. So it starts green like it is now, where the red arrow's at, and then it becomes yellow. And once it becomes yellow, this is where you want to cleanse, and you want the red debuff. When you get the red debuff, this is when you begin staggering. So when you begin staggering the boss with the red, it's a very, very tight stagger window. So immediately when you see that debuff turn yellow, you want to use your Sacred Charms and Panaceas or whatever you want to use. Even if you're relying on the cleanse normally, I pug this a lot, so I tend to just use both. Now, the next portion of the fight is going to be a DPS check. So what ends up happening is you'll bring him down to about 110 bars of health. So I'm going to freeze it here because I want to show, so in hard mode, you'll get 4 of these. So this is where you have to remember if you are green or black. So if you're green, you're going to want to kill one of these orbs and stand there. If you're black, you're going to kill the black orb and stand there as well. So he's going to pick one of these directions in hard mode and he's going to stab one of them. So make sure only one person is standing there as well. So after you break the orb, you want to stand there and wait. And he's going to pick a spot and impale it. So in normal, it's already decided for you. So you stagger him, and once you stagger him, these little balls are going to start spawning, and make sure you get the color that you are in line with. So if you're green, kill the green ones. If you break like one black one and you're green, you'll be okay. You just don't want to keep doing it. If you like I broke one by accident this fight, and I'm perfectly okay for the whole fight. Just do not break more than one. So after you've cleaned the map, you can build a little bit of meter here if you choose, and what's going to end up happening is he's going to enter like a DPS check. So he kind of floods the map. Usually people will Thyrain, or if you have high enough damage, you can just Inana. So you have to bring him down to, I want to say roughly 90 bars of health. So you have like this really short time while he's flooding the map to get him down to 90 bars of health. It's actually a pretty generous window, so I wouldn't be too concerned about it, but this is where you'll see if you are lacking damage or not. And try your best to stand close to him because he makes it really hard to see the AoEs on the ground. So the only thing that's like super clearly visible is the green poison like explosions that he does. And as you can see, like all the other moves he does, like red or yellow, it's barely visible. So once you phase him, you're going to have to jump immediately to get over here. And I can't ever get over here fast enough to show this, but there'll be the first person to enter this room. So I can never get there immediately. So I'm going to have to make do with this drawing. So what you're looking for is debris falling from the ceiling. So there's going to be 2 sets of stairs, and if there's debris falling from the ceiling, you want to stay away from those sets of stairs. So for example, if in this drawing there's debris falling on the top set of stairs, you're going to want to pick the bottom set of stairs. And when you're doing this, the first person that enters the room gets this view. So that's the person responsible for picking which path is clear of debris. Now, as for everyone else, if you are running and you know which direction to go, make sure you hug the wall. The safest way to go either top or bottom is just to hug the wall and just run through it. And then when you get to this set of stairs here, there's going to be a bunch of large poopy explosions. Just wait and sit. There's plenty of time. The bombs will stop and you just run up the stairs. And you're running, and if you have anything you want to do, like pot or try to get rid of your stacks in pot, this is a great place to do it. And you're going to jump when the water hits this triangular patch of stairs here. So once it's there, you can jump, you go across, and you continue the fight. Once again, he's going to enter the fight by jumping down in a large AoE. You dodge the AoE and dodge the explosions. Now from here on out, you can get knocked off the stage and you're going to have to swim to get back up. So I don't remember if I did get knocked off in this fight, but if I do, I'll go over on how the swimming mechanic works. And if I don't, I'll kind of do another silly painting drawing and I'll show you guys. So this move he's doing right now is pretty frequent. So what ends up happening is he spins and he changes directions twice. If he does this move, try to stay on him initially, and if you are unlucky and you're outside, just stay away from him. And on the second turn, make sure you save your spacebar so when he's about to stop, you can spacebar close to him so you don't get swung at. Now at 75 bars of health, he's going to do a modified version of the Petrify mechanic. So it's generally safe to stand a little bit further from the middle here, because if he drops the spears on you, you're going to be instantly petrified. But first things first, what you're going to want to do is clear these bugs. So there's going to be like these huge, massive mutant ones. Just get rid of them as soon as you can. And if you have not that many bugs on your side, feel free to help maybe someone else up above you or beside you, wherever. So what you're going to look for here, though, is once all the bugs are cleared, you're going to look for this gray smoke. So as soon as you see this, spacebar in. So I have the arrow kind of pointing at kind of like where you should look. So keep your eye there. As soon as you see that smoke, just spacebar in and get petrified. And there's like there's not that much time to mess around there. So as long as you get petrified, then you're fine. He'll spawn more bugs afterwards. Just dispatch of them quickly. And from here on out, you're just going to fight him some more until he enters the next mechanic, which is around 50 bars of health. So there's a way to survive it without using Inana, but the best thing that I can say is I've never done it like that without having someone dying. So the best thing to do is once he gets close to around 50, make sure you have Inana up for this, because it makes this way easier, and it's 100 times like a quality of life thing. So just make sure you have Inana up for when he's about to approach 50, and the timing for it is when he pretty much just starts. So he jumps to the middle, and when you see him emote at the bottom, you see him talk, just use the Inana, and it makes the stagger and everything. You have like this huge damage window and everything. It's great. So yeah, that's my recommendation for the times 50 mech. Just have Inana up for it. And the next one after this, I'm pretty sure if your damage is high enough here, he goes straight into the last mechanic, which is the times 16 health bar mechanic. So as soon as you're done with this, he'll usually have like a little bit more to go, but he will enter the times 16, which is the dome, and it's kind of weird, but I'll slow it down and I'll kind of explain it here in a second. So while you're heading down here, just always keep in mind, just try your best not to get hit and deal damage when you can, and stay away from his attack patterns, because usually everything he does from here will knock you off the map. So he's going to jump here, and this mechanic here, he's going to spawn bugs again. So this is another place to utilize your flame grenades, get rid of the bugs, and there's going to be this stacking debuff on you. So I still count out loud right now while I'm doing this. So you're gonna have 2 stacking debuffs here. So make sure you're reading the right one. So that you'll get the polymorph one and the plague zone. So when you're counting these plague zone buffs, make sure you're always counting them when you get in. So you're gonna get in, dip in, and you're gonna get these plague zone stacks. You do not want to go over 7. You can, I think, I want to say like 8 or 9 is probably the max, depending on how tanky you are, but as soon as it hits 7, you're going to want to spacebar out, and then you'll get this purifying plague zone. You go back in, you DPS the boss as much as you can with the window you have. So once it hits 7 again, you're going to spacebar out. And this whole time, this explosions and everything are happening around you. Just be cognizant of it, I guess. So you're going to get out, purifying plague zone, and once the purifying sits in, you go back in. So it's a rinse and repeat. You do this over and over and over again. And the goal of this mechanic is to remove as much of his shields as possible before he enters the last phase. So this is actually a pretty long mechanic. I actually only have this slowed down to about half speed. So during this whole thing, you kind of just get as much damage as you can out. Feel free to dump your meters at the start if you want, because there's plenty of time during this mechanic as well to build your gauge back up for when he exits. Now, when you're done with this mechanic, you're going to get a little short scene, and he's going to turn all purple and angry, and he's going to get really mad. And the biggest thing about this last phase is to not get knocked off the platform. you want to dump as much damage as you can into him, like, immediately to get him just dead, right? So he's going to jump back down as always, and you're going to dodge the explosions. And if you have Thyrane up or whatever here, just feel free to use it and do as much damage as you can. The most dangerous thing about this phase is he will give himself a shield and he will start petrifying people like in a chain. So the best thing to do here is as soon as you see this mechanic, I'll kind of point it out here in a second. You're going to want to throw a flame grenade down or like some AoE that's like long lasting or whatnot. So what he'll do is he'll put a shield on himself. He'll do an emote. So he'll do this thing. He'll do an emote. He'll say inferior creature and he'll petrify somebody. So the way this works is they'll petrify one person and then it kind of like branches out from there. So you're going to break it. And if you have a flame grenade here, I'm out for some reason. I think I threw one by accident, but you should still have one up here. And this is the last flame grenade. So you want to throw one out on the party and whatever spells you have, just make sure you're close together and everyone gets broken out. And at the end of this, once everyone's out, watch out for this spear. It is a one-shot, so you do not want to get hit by this. And the only other attack that's pretty dangerous is where he does an air raid. He'll jump into the air and then he'll come back down. When he lands, it's a counter. So this last portion, I'm going to kind of go over this swimming. So excuse the drawing, but this is the best that I can do. So normally if you get sent out, you're going to get a blue bar. If you can fill the blue bar all the way to the top, it'll send you out. But after the first or second time, you'll start getting a purple bar because it starts way off at the bottom. So the way this works is when you get the purple bar, you're going to keep space barring until you get this yellow moving bar. You're going to want to land the yellow moving bar at the top of the purple bar. And the way you do this is once you get that yellow bar going up and down, you're going to hold down your space bar and release it at the time where the yellow bar is at the top of the purple bar. So you're pretty much going to be spamming spacebar like crazy once you get in. And if it's a blue bar and you can fill it up, you'll come right out of the water. If not, you'll get the purple bar. And pay attention to when the yellow bar comes in and out. If you guys have watched people do Akkan and they get knocked off, you'll see this quite frequently. But you hold down on the yellow bar, and then once it overlaps on the top, you can get out. All right, well, that's pretty much it for this fight. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything like that, feel free to leave it in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.